Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and this is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. With me today is Melissa Deni. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm great. I was going to make a joke about how the feeds are so exciting, but I feel like we do that every time the feeds are boring. So I'll just be real and say the feeds are really boring lately.
Yes, and also with us tonight, a substitute for Brent. We've got Matt Liguori here with us. How you doing, Matt?
I'm fabulous, or whatever Brent would usually say.
Yeah.
I hope you do the whole podcast in the style of Brent.
I could try. I don't know how far I'll get.
Just every line is just something Brent might have said.
Yeah. Brent, I'm not sure. I didn't have time to read Brent's message because I didn't actually see it earlier in the day. And so when I went to message Brent the link for this podcast, I saw this big long message about how he couldn't be here tonight. And so he's traded himself in for Liguori.
He's seeing a movie and he couldn't get out of it. So
what's seeing a movie?
Well, it was
his
parents. Parents come first.
Wow.
So we already had the tickets. Couldn't do anything about it. And I mean, come on, it's like the final five. We're talking. We're scrapping for the bottom of the barrel here.
Maybe if he's going to see Infinity War, I'll allow it. Maybe.
I think he is actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know he's seen it already once, but yeah.
I'm sorry you're so unhappy to have me here. Brent had to see a movie.
Look, we almost had perfect attendance here.
Oh, true.
Yeah, we did actually for one of the first times.
Yeah, we're just 2 shows away. Infinity War. All right, so we are here live on a Tuesday night, like we are every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, to argue about what's happening on the Big Brother Canada 6 live feeds. We have the chat room open on robhasawebsite.com, and you can send questions in to me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran, if you so desire. Let's get into this week. We got some stuff to recap, because I think it's important to go back a little bit before the triple eviction if we want to be talking for more than 5 minutes. So.
Fair enough.
So during the week of the before the triple. As we talked about last week, Paris and Maddy were beginning to talk about, should we keep Kayla? Should we keep Ali? They ultimately end up landing on evicting Ali and sending Kayla home, as we saw in the episode. And then the triple begins. Derek ends up winning the HOH, and he's going to nominate Johnny, Liv, and Maddy. Kayla's going to end up winning the veto. And then not using it, sending both Johnny and Olivia home, choosing to stick to their word with the trio over taking a shot at one of them and keeping potentially somebody like Liv. Melissa, did you like that move from Kayla?
I feel like it would have been really great for Kayla to use the veto on Olivia, and that way, first of all, Olivia gets to stay, and second of all, it would just be really great to see. But I understand why she decided to keep her word to the threesome, because moving forward, they didn't know if they were going to win the next HOH. They didn't know if they were going to need them going down the stretch. So, I mean, I understand why she kept her word, especially because I feel like the threesome would be pretty bitter jury members if she decided to go against them and break her word. So I could definitely see them not voting for her just to spite her. And so I think overall it was a smart move on Kayla's part, but it would have been awesome to have her use the veto on Olivia.
Yes, would have been fun. It would have been a Bruno move, right? Like boom, more twists, twists and turns.
I feel like she had nothing to gain from using the veto. I feel like she's going into this final 5 with, 3 obviously very weak competitors compared to especially, who was she going to save out of the people that were on the block. She was talking about a little bit regretting not saving Olivia because she thought Olivia would have been somebody she could have, still made something happen with. But Olivia, she won a competition. She almost won another competition. So if she was looking for a path where her and Derek could win out, this is the right choice.
Yeah, we discussed this the night of that. Like to consider using the veto was worth consideration, but ultimately, I think we landed on this was probably the right move to send both Johnny and Olivia home. That said, Maddy did come very close to beating Kayla in the HOH. That could have been disastrous, but ultimately, you can't predict that. I think this was probably the right move. It does give Kayla more credibility moving forward in the game, and also doesn't tarnish any people's jury votes. Not that Kayla has been particularly worried about that, if we remember back to her goodbye message to Ryan. But because of that goodbye message, she does need to be a little more careful about who she pisses off when she sends to jury.
They also posted a video from the jury house that Johnny filmed, and in it, Ryan was definitely still not happy with Kayla. So
Ball of hatred.
I think she definitely needs votes other than Ryan, because I don't think she's getting Ryan's at all.
Yes. So ultimately, I do think that was the right move. So Johnny and Liv end up going home, and we're now at the final 5, and they're going to play in the HOH. As I mentioned, Maddy came close. She made it to the tiebreaker. This could have gone very differently, but ultimately, Kayla does win this HOH, and this is going to all but guarantee that the Showmance is going to make it to the final 4, and that one of them is definitely in the final 3. So not looking great for the trio, who still has yet to win a single competition, Matt.
Yeah, and now that we're at the end of the game, and it's no secret that comps are what's going to carry everything moving forward. It's a lot. We were talking about how maybe they're going to fix or change the game up a little bit because of what Kevin was able to do last year. Seems like they obviously haven't been making too many changes, because the competitions still have a lot to do with the house, with the players. What did this person say, and so on. And all 5 of the people that are left in the house, maybe Will a little bit less than the others, have been doing a lot of studying. They all feel pretty confident. They've been, last week the trio took a little bit of a break, and I think that it didn't do too much damage to them, but they did take a noticeable break from studying. But all of them pretty much are on an evil playing field going forward. So while it's not looking great for the for anybody that's not Dela right now, but it's hard to count anybody out completely.
I know. I feel like we keep saying like, oh, the threesome, they're useless. They're never going to win. And it's like, stop saying that, because you're going to jinx it. And now they're going to win the rest of the game. And that would be just an absolute nightmare to have them all of a sudden just like step up and start winning competitions. So they better not. I hope they stay useless.
Yeah, and I mean the person that I think is most likely to win a competition is Maddy. She did the best, and things are not looking up for Maddy this week. So so basically, what happens is after Kayla wins the HOH, Paris and Maddy have a big fight, and this is what we talked about Monday night. It's kind of been the talk of the town because there's not much else going on, and basically Paris is mad at Maddy because Maddy said words. She talked to Kayla and she said things, and they were normal things. She's playing the game. She's not even playing it particularly cutthroat, but Paris is very mad at her. Paris blames Maddy for the decision to save Kayla. She feels like that was ultimately a huge mistake, and she's really taking it all out on Maddy. And it's not very fun, Melissa.
It is so dumb, because not for 1 second did Paris consider what was best for Maddy when she made her decision. Like, I swear it was all about what is good for Paris, what will help Paris moving forward, what will help. Maybe she thought, oh, what will help the 3 of us get through this eviction? But there's no way she made this decision for Maddy. Now, all of a sudden, because she regrets the decision, she's saying that she made it for Maddy. But if she had felt like this was the right decision to make afterwards, then she would be like, yeah, this was all me. This was all for me. I did it for myself because I had to do it, and I'm going to win, and like her little messages to the camera. And you said like Maddy's not even playing a particularly cutthroat game. Not only is she not playing a particularly cutthroat game, she's not playing like for herself at all. She's literally playing for these people who don't care about her at all. It's honestly, it's so hard to watch because it's like an abusive relationship. They're gaslighting her, or Paris is gaslighting her, and then Will's just being outright mean. So it's just so awful. Maddy has been torn down. I mean, picture preseason Maddy and compare her to apologetic, cowering, like tail between her legs Maddy that she is now, and it is the saddest thing to see. I feel so bad for her. I want her to come out and everyone to be like, you did nothing wrong, Maddy. Seriously, they were gaslighting you. They were trying to make you feel bad about yourself and make you feel like you're useless, and you could have really been a contender if it wasn't for this toxic trio. They honestly are so toxic. They're awful together, and they're not nice. It's really hard to watch. It is so hard to watch because Maddy keeps going back to them, and she needs to separate herself from them because it is just mentally screwing with her. It is just so bad for her mentally.
And it's so interesting the what Paris's relationship with Maddy all game has been so back and forth, and it's been mostly like in the back of Paris's mind, she's always had Maddy's best interests in heart for selfish reasons, because she's always wanted to protect Maddy because she knew that Maddy wouldn't turn against her and that keeping Maddy in the game was a number on her side. But along the way, she would throw Maddy under the bus. Like to anybody that she had a conversation with. Oh, Maddy's not really with me. I don't know where her head's at. She's going to do whatever she's going to do. And just the fact that, after all of this, Maddy didn't see any of that. So she has no idea, but she still feels like this close friendship that she's formed with Paris. And Paris, likes to bring up all the time, I saved you so many times in this game.
After you threw her under the bus.
Right. Like, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. Erica wanted to send you home on her first HOH, and I put in work to make sure that didn't happen, and all this stuff. So I think Maddy does feel in her heart, she feels a little bit indebted to Paris, a little bit like this person did do a lot for me, and she is the reason I'm still here in the final five. And I do feel like she's become a good friend of mine, and it's just like she's just so mind effed that sorry, if I was Brent, maybe I would have said the whole thing. But
yeah, where's your Brent? I thought you were supposed to be Brent.
The second it came out, I was like, wait, I'm Brent. She just feels like so loyal, I guess, or something, and it's just messing with her that her two friends are coming after her, saying you're awful. I hope you feel alone. I hope you feel good that you have no friends left because you threw us under the bus. And it's like, come on, what are we watching here? This is so terrible.
Yeah, and she really didn't throw anybody under the bus. She really didn't do anything. And if anything, she should be throwing them under the bus. It's final five, and Maddy needs to stand up for herself and tell them, it's final five, guys. We're all needing to do whatever it takes. I want to stay. You should throw me under the bus, whatever you need to say. We just need to go out there and play for ourselves right now because one of us is going home and we need to figure out who it is and have it not be me. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's really hard to watch. It's just bad.
I have always felt that Paris and Will felt tighter than either of them did with Maddy, and she said that too. I guess she's acknowledged that over the past few weeks that the two of them seem tighter. So it feels like no matter what happened this week, the two of them, Paris and Will, were going to be looking out for each other more than Maddy. I don't know why those two got closer. I guess it's they just did. So it's Maddy was thinking in the beginning of the week that's why she did throw them under the bus to Kayla in a way. She said that the two of them have each other's backs before they have my back, but it just, I guess, gave Paris an excuse to say, well, Maddy threw us under the bus, so now it's even easier to kick her to the curb.
Yeah, it's just it's rough. It's rough to watch. It's not something that is the fun part of Big Brother. It's I guess a little bit interesting if you look at it from a very macabre perspective, but it's so brutal, the way that Maddy is being treated, and it is the game. It's what she signed up for. I do wish that she would stand up for herself a little more, but it's just the way things go sometimes. I think all three of these people in this trio have just been mentally broken down by this game. I think they have progressively gotten more and more delusional and cruel as the game has gone on, and it's weird. It's weird to watch. Because we sort of saw that with Big Brother 19 with Paul just becoming more and more insufferable as the game went on, but he at least had a reason to. He genuinely was in charge of the entire house, controlling every part of it. But Paris and Maddy in particular, they just imagined that was happening, and the imagined control they had over the house has warped their perspective and their personalities.
It honestly is it's so weird to see the changing of people's personalities throughout the game. And it's actually very apparent. I never really realized it before, but people change in the game. I mean, maybe once they come out, they are like, oh, I'm out of the game. Okay, now I can be myself again. And they come back to normal. But like watching people throughout the season, especially watching them preseason, like I know sometimes people put on like personas, but even like on the first day, people are so different from when they like exit the house and go back out in the real world. It's like Stanford Prison Experiment almost, because they like take on the role of what they're supposed to be in the house, or supposed to be in quotes. And it's weird. It's just so strange to watch it. I mean, and you saw in BB19 when Paul became somewhat of like a cult leader, essentially, and everyone was like on this like sliding scale of who was like his number two, who was his second, and then who like fell down the ranks. And then if you weren't loyal to Paul, like, well, then you were the next to go. And it was just like whoever Paul deemed was like unworthy was kicked out. And I feel like it's just crazy to see the dynamics of these houses, like where people go in and it's like, it's a game, guys. Like, what are you doing? But it's just scary at points, you know?
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, I guess if you're following feed updates, and you're also listening to us, as you should be, I guess, you'll notice that the Paris and Will bashing Maddy stuff kind of has slowed down in the past 24 hours, a little bit more. The reason is pretty much that Maddy hasn't really done any campaigning. She's been, at least from my perspective, it seems like I don't know if she's giving up or if she's just not putting her foot on the gas pedal because she's afraid that Paris and Will are going to blow back up at her. I don't know if she's resigned to the fact that she's going home. It seems like she kind of is. She was talking to Will like an hour ago, and she was saying, you know, if I go out on Thursday and I'm on my way to the jury house in 48 hours, then it is what it is. I'm happy with what happened. And if I'm still here, then good. I'm happy to be here. It's kind of like she never expected to get this far. So I feel like now that she did get this far, she is almost satisfied if she just goes out on Thursday.
I just don't understand why she's willing to just give up this like dream of hers. She says she's had this dream for a long time. I mean, what happened to the Maddy and the Snow girl that we saw, you know, just a measly like couple months ago? You know what I mean? Like, she is totally different. And I just feel like she's just laying down and just taking it and letting them berate her and letting them beat her down and letting the game just kind of pass her by. And it's so unfortunate, because we saw the way that she was preseason and we were all so excited about her coming into the game. So it's a really sad trajectory that Maddy has followed in this game.
But I mean, like along the way, we've seen her get riled up when she thought that she was going to possibly go out in certain weeks, like back when Erica was going to almost get her out. And I think there was another week that that she was going to possibly go up as a nomination, maybe Kayla HOH. And she just was so focused on, I'm not going up this week and I'm not going out of the house this week. I will stay. And it just seemed like that was because she wanted to make sure that she made it to the final phase of the game. And now that she's here again, like I said, I just feel like she's just content.
I feel like another aspect of this is the fact that she's won nothing in the game, and neither have Paris or Will. And Will at least got to talk to his family a little bit, but like Maddy has seen no outside influence. Like I feel like if Maddy got to see her family, like, girl, you are in this for yourself. Remember that. You love you. This is your dream. Like, she needs some outside perspective, because her entire world has shifted and shrunken into this one house. And she feels legitimately like Paris is the judge and executioner of the sentence that she has passed on. And she needs some kind of reminder, like, no, you are a real person outside of this house. And this, just because your reality inside the house has changed does not mean your reality outside the house has to. But it's she hasn't been able to have that perspective because she hasn't won anything, and she came very close. And ultimately, that may end up being what could cost her the ultimate win, because I feel like Maddy may have been in here with a shot if she had been able to take that HOH home.
It's fascinating that I mean, I agree with you that she may have had a shot. We talked about that when we found out who the final five was, and you would talk to the evictees and you were asking them to rank who they would vote for. And it seemed like there may have been potential for Maddy to win over Paris, maybe Will, I don't know. But the pre-jury people all got together last night on like a little roundtable with Peter and Alec. And if I caught a little bit of that, and they they did not have any kind of praise in the slightest for Maddy and Maddy's game. And granted, they are not the jury and they've gotten to go home and see everything. But I don't know if their perception as they left the house was that Maddy was doing nothing, and being home has further validated that. And then I'm looking at the jury like, would you actually vote for Maddy, or is it just they have resentment towards Paris and Will, and that's why they would vote for Maddy instead?
Yeah, I mean, based on my interviews with them, obviously Ryan is a fan of Paris, but Johnny was like, Paris, Maddy, they're kind of interchangeable. Allie has no respect for Paris. She would vote for Maddy over either Paris or Will, I believe. And then Olivia was like, probably Paris then Maddy, but like as far as the jury is concerned, in my view right now, they don't see Paris as any better than Maddy, and in some cases they see Maddy as better than Paris. Even Ryan, who likes Paris, talked about like, Paris has not played a good game, but I love her. So I do think that Maddy could have fared well in a jury vote if she was in a position to stay this week, but it's not looking good for her because Kayla ultimately puts Paris and Maddy up on the block. Then Kayla goes and wins the veto. Will was the person who had to win the veto in order to send Derek home, and Will caved. Derek told Will, you'd better step down. You'd better not win this veto. If you stay in this competition any longer, then we are not taking you to the final four. We will use the veto and we will send you home. And Will said, okay, I'm done. I'm out. And he apparently stepped down. I think he said that he could have won that competition. I mean, that's probably not true, but he may have felt it was true. And if he felt it was true and still stepped down, then this is a huge mistake. So ultimately, Kayla wins this veto and chooses not to use it. So one of Paris or Maddy is going home. And at the moment, the target remains on Maddy, Melissa.
Yeah, Will is just proving once again that he's a total garbage player and that he has no idea what he's doing and he really doesn't care. And then, in regards to Maddy, just not to keep beating on this, but what I don't understand is why Maddy isn't now basically turning into the skid and saying, okay, well, these guys think I'm throwing them under the bus. They're totally over me. They don't want to work with me. Like my own allies are over me. Now I need to go straight to Derek and Kayla, and tell them exactly what's been going on and what they've been doing separate from them. And, just really throw them under the bus because she didn't originally. Why not? I mean, they already believe that she's like this horrible human being who just throws her allies under the bus or whatever, that's what their, lingo is. And I don't understand why now she doesn't just go do that. There's no way she's going to convince them that she didn't do it. So she might as well just go and do it.
You can't say enough about how ridiculous sounding it is about Will throwing the veto because of what Derek said. Like if Will won the veto, he's in Final Four. But Derek said, if you don't win, if you stay in this competition, we're not taking you to Final Four. How does that make I know he's not the greatest player of all time, not to burst anyone's bubble, but how did that get past his head?
Yeah, and also just like you have to look at it in terms of incentives, right? And Derek can make this threat all day long, but if he feels like Will is still the worst competitor, he's going to still want to take Will to the Final Four. He's not going to legitimately follow through on a threat purely out of spite when you're this down to the wire. If he feels like Maddy is the biggest threat or that Will is valuable to his game for whatever reason, then that's like staying in the veto is not going to change that. Because you can see where Will is coming from. Like, okay, I'll try and guarantee my spot, but like Derek and Kayla are going to make their decision regardless of what you do. And if they decided after this veto, like, you know what, Will maybe could have won that veto and that scares us, maybe we need to send him home, then you're really kicking yourself that you took yourself out. So it's a bad decision all around. And the chances that Will can even win this game would have been much higher if he had been able to win this veto and forced Derek out of the house, not only because it gives him a better chance of getting to the final two, but it also gives something on his resume. I have to imagine that even somebody like Johnny, who has talked about potentially voting voting for Will. If Johnny finds out that Will caved and just threw this veto because he was threatened, I have to imagine that is just going to be another. I mean, if somebody like Johnny, who has promised us in that jury video, don't worry, we are going to choose a good winner. If he knows that Derek got Will to step down from a veto competition that could have sent Derek home, I cannot see Johnny genuinely feeling like Will deserves the win over Derek. And I feel like this is just one of many reasons as to why that is the case, Melissa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, God, I hope that Will doesn't win this game. If Will wins this game, it would be an absolute travesty. I mean, at least Paris and Maddy have been trying and have been doing stuff, and I can see the reasoning behind some of their moves. But Will, like, he has no idea what he's doing. And if Will wins this game, I will be absolutely devastated. Any other, iteration of the winner, like, I guess I can find something in it. I feel like I won't be happy unless Kayla wins, but I will find some good in any of the three remaining besides Will. So yeah, that just God, that really should not happen. Please no.
Yeah, and Johnny's point was that he didn't want to vote for Derek because he said, well, I don't want to vote for the straight white guy who wins all the time and is always viewed as like somebody who should just maybe be handed things. But when you put the final two of Derek and Will next to each other, it's like, well, what's the difference in this in these two, the way they who they are in society? So if you're gonna put that out there, that's a reason you're not going to vote for Derek, when you put another straight white guy next to Derek, you probably have to start to consider, all right, which one of these actually had the stronger gameplay. And I do think, like, just in my heart, I do think ultimately Johnny would come down on voting for Derek.
Yeah, I think so too. And it might depend on their final two speeches, which I do think that Derek would do much better than Will if the two of them were there.
You don't say.
But this is, again, this is total speculation on my part, but the sense that I got when talking to Johnny was that when he was going down that list of people, he said Will, then Derek. And that's just like, that's because that's what he was thinking in the house. And even as he was talking to me, I felt like he was trying to justify it, and it felt like he was seeing that his justification wasn't great. He was like, I didn't want to vote for Derek, but I guess I'd have to put him third just because, the privilege thing, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I do think that there's definitely a shot that Derek gets that Derek gets Johnny's vote over Will. Or it might be a thing where it's like, if Johnny knows, like, Johnny might not campaign for Will to get votes over Derek. Johnny might just say, like, this is just going to be like a protest vote. Like, this is just me putting a vote on Will, knowing that Derek is going to win. It's hard to see Johnny really just
I hope he doesn't do that.
It's hard to see Johnny actively campaigning and trying to convince people to vote for Will over Derek. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think that he has any proper justification for it. Because again, his justification to me was the privilege thing, which I don't think he's not going to be like, but don't vote for him because he's privileged. I think that's a personal reason to vote for Will, and I don't think anyone else is on board with that. Liv certainly wouldn't be. Ali wouldn't be. So I don't think we're in that much danger in terms of all that, but we do have to worry about Ryan and Paris and Maddy. If
they vote for Will over Derek, that is insane to me, because Will has done nothing in this game, whereas Derek has done a lot in this game. And I know he's, people say, oh, Kayla's the one doing all the moves, but he actually had a really good social game. He had a better social game than Kayla even, and he's won so many competitions. And yeah, okay, Kayla made a lot of the decisions in the beginning, but I feel like in the end, he started to pick up on the game, and he was really starting to contribute to, their strategy. And between him and Will, I mean, I don't even think it's even a question. Will has done nothing, and any sort of strategic move that he has decided on was always bad for his game. So he's just real bad. Like, he's got nothing going for him in the game. I think that Derek does have a lot going for him in this game. And I really think that if anyone chooses Will over Derek to win in the end, it would just be a travesty.
Yeah, and I'll say this, it's a 7-person jury, and each vote is very important, when you have these smaller juries. If we're talking Derek versus Will, if you are looking to see a Will win, you have to consider that Paris and Maddy would be two of those votes. After this week, and the way that Will treated Maddy in the beginning of the week, do we really think that Maddy is going to feel good about giving Will her vote? No, I really don't think so. I really think that maybe just like Allie and Olivia are going to feel like, all right, well, Dayla's the strongest competitor, so they're going to get our votes if they're in there at the end. And I don't know. I don't care how close Maddy and Will have been all season. I think, especially just after the way Will has been acting this week, he's losing Maddy's vote very fast.
Yeah, I would hope that Maddy would, once she like exits the house and sees other people, that she would, realize that I'm going to vote for the best player, and I'm not going to sit there and, kowtow to Paris and Will's wants. I'm going to vote for who I think actually played the best game, and hopefully she realizes that it would be Derek over Will.
Yeah, and I do think that it's an interesting question to talk about Derek versus Kayla in terms of who's played a better game. We've kind of touched on it in some previous podcasts, but I do think it's an interesting comparison because like hearing you talk about it, Melissa, I do feel like Kayla's highs are higher, but I also feel like Kayla's lows are lower in terms of her errors, her mistakes in the game, like the goodbye message that she left for Ryan. It's like just various mistakes she's made along the way. I haven't seen Derek make as many mistakes, but Derek also doesn't have the high points that Kayla does. He was not the person to reel Allie and Liv in. He was not the person that he doesn't have as much respect as Kayla does because he doesn't know the game as well. So I think it's an interesting comparison. And I think that when it comes down to the vote, it does seem like Kayla has more votes in the jury house. But based on the people in the house right now, I think the trio is leaning more toward they'd vote Derek over Kayla, which is kind of interesting. And especially if we have Ryan, who is still very angry at Kayla, I do think it might be possible that Derek ends up beating Kayla in a final two situation. How do you feel about that, Matt?
Well, when you compare the two of them week to week, it really is like they just go up and down, back and forth. When you started the beginning of the game, it's like the only reason that I feel like Kayla and Derek even made it past week 4 when the real deal got broken up after Jesse got evicted. Kayla kept them in the game. Kayla made relationships with Allie and Olivia and Erica, and she brought her and Derek in so that they would be in a comfortable spot. And going forward, no one was looking at them. They were looking at that group a little bit. But Kayla completely covered that up, covered their tracks, and they made sure that they were good.
Right. Well. First it was Derek with Hamza, right? Because Derek and Kayla were going on the block, with one of them definitely going home until Derek bonded with Hamza through his social game and convinced him to not target them. Then it was Kayla with Allie and Liv bringing them in, and I do think Kayla's move is more impressive. It was a little bit longer lasting, and that's what I mean in terms of Kayla's highs are higher. But then ultimately it's Derek's competition wins that end up saving Derek and Kayla from going home multiple times. Derek's clutch HOH win that in that triple eviction where they were almost definitely going home if he hadn't pulled that out. And then Kayla's HOH win the very following competition. So it really has been a back and forth ping pong between they have really benefited each other a lot throughout the game, and without the other person, I don't think they would be nearly as successful. So it's very interesting to look at the combination of the two of them and who might have played the better game. And ultimately, it may come down to who did the better jury management. I hate to say it because I don't want to see it happen, but we may be looking at like a third or fourth or whatever season in a row where theoretically the best player ends up losing because their jury management was just lackluster. And because again, I think back to Kayla's goodbye message to Ryan, and it was just so brutal, and it was so unnecessarily brutal. If Ryan doesn't vote for her, we can only attribute it to that. So I'm a little bit worried about Kayla's chances moving forward, but I do still see her as the favorite. But it's just it's very interesting, and I like how much information we have on the jury to speculate on all this stuff, Melissa.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, like it would be a great closer to the season if Kayla wins. Anything else? I mean, I will be happy, I guess, with a Derek win, but I will be ecstatic and thrilled and totally satisfied with the Kayla win. I will be happy with the Derek win, and I will be devastated with any other win.
I've always said that Kayla's like worst blunder in the game, her biggest blind spot going along was Ryan, and the week that her and Derek were equally like like just made a bad call when Paris came up to them and said, oh, well, Ryan's still the mastermind here, even though they had correctly been identifying that maybe Johnny was the person they should have been going after. Johnny's abilities to win comps were just greater than Ryan's. And it just seemed like if they had tried, they potentially maybe could have done some work bringing Ryan into their side. It's hard to say for sure, but they could have tried, and Kayla just never had any interest in making anything happen with Ryan. She just she would have a conversation with him, and then it would be like he'd walk out of the room and she'd be like, oh, I really wish I didn't have to do that. She just did not like him at all. And up until he went out, she left him a really terrible goodbye message. And who knows if she even, I feel like at that point in the game, maybe she thought that she actually didn't have a great chance to win. So she just wasn't really paying too much attention to her goodbye messages, wasn't being very careful with it. I know I didn't think either one of them had a shot at winning. It felt like that was when Johnny was starting to rise, and it was like, all right, eventually Dela will be targeted. But as we saw, they slipped through the cracks, and then eventually here we are in the final 5 with them.
Yeah, I think that's another, and you might attribute that mistake of targeting Ryan when she really shouldn't have, and she really got bailed out by Canada with the save, even though Canada was trying to screw her over. Yep. That was the turning point of the entire season, and we can get into how that impacts how we evaluate Kayla and Derek's game. But Derek, it was in on every decision that she made that week, so I think we also have to fault Derek for those decisions as well. So I think it is kind of close, although I would still give it to Kayla, but it might be a thing where it comes down to, if they're in the final 2, who wins? That's the better player, because they they were equally good at getting themselves there. So who was better at jury management? That may be the tiebreaker. Who knows? But I'm still inclined to say Kayla, just because I just feel like she's more respectable as a winner, because and there is something to what Johnny says where it's like, Derek is just so boring. You don't want Derek to be your winner. You want somebody like Kayla to be your winner, who is like vicious but also entertaining and a big personality. So it's interesting all around.
How crazy is it that the Canada save that was intended from Canada, with the way that they voted, it was intended for them to throw it in Kayla's face and say, oh, you want Ryan out so bad? Well, not going to happen. We're going to keep Ryan in the house. And then it just completely turned Kayla's game around, where now Ryan stays in the house. Erica goes home, which is obviously the better move for her. And now, because if Erica stayed in the house, you have Erica and Johnny still together. They probably can keep Allie and Liv close if they need to. It's hard to say for sure, again, because Allie and Liv were close with Derek and Kayla at the time. But who's more likely to win at that point? Erica and Johnny had been on such a roll, winning comps, back and forth. Erica could have very easily won the next HOH. And then who's her first target when she finds out that Kayla was considering putting her up last week? Kayla and Derek probably go up, and then they probably go out. So it's just so funny that after, Canada did that to try to get back at her, it's like, all right, well, you probably just handed her the win.
Yeah, Bill Hall completely right in the chat. It also exposed Johnny. It was a huge turning point in the game. And it is very funny that Canada, in the attempt to screw Kayla over, propelled her to a potential victory. Yeah. And I really just feel like it's a perfect example of when people tell you, oh, you need to game the twists. You need to game the twist. You need to get Canada to like you, so they'll vote for you. And like, no.
Nope.
If Canada didn't hate Kayla, then she wouldn't have been propelled to victory. Twists are random. So
Kayla was the villain that entire week. It was here's Ryan, the super fan who wants to do nothing but live out his dream, and here's Kayla, the awful girl trying to take that away from him.
Yeah, well, the casual fans all over Facebook are still following that narrative where Kayla is the villain of the season, which is just so ridiculous. They're like, nobody's likable now that they just showed this episode with Paris and Will.
Yeah, and I mean, I really do feel like that's what the producers are trying to do. They're trying to get us to hate Paris and Will more than we hate Kayla, because they've been dumping on Kayla all season long. So
I don't know why they chose Kayla as
they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they've just made poor editing decisions all season long. Every single like person they predicted. So like Hamza was their guy. Boom, he's out in the double. Erica was great, but then they screwed her over by focusing on left the week after. Then they ignored what Johnny did to focus on Allie, who then leaves. They've been dumping on Kayla all season long, and now she's the front runner because once they finally start focusing on Johnny, he gets out on the triple.
So bad.
Allie was the mastermind all season long, and they had one episode to turn that around and show us why she was getting evicted that week, because it was like, oh, here's Allie this whole season doing great things and telling us about it in the diary room, and then within that one episode they were like, well, actually there is a reason Allie's going home, so we should probably tell you about that.
They need to stop trying to craft their own narrative. They need to just go with exactly what is happening and show us what's going on, because it changes from week to week. One week we have someone who's controlling the whole thing like Paris. One week we have someone who's controlling it like Johnny. One week we have Erica. One week we have Kayla. Like they just need to follow the actual pattern of events, and it will give you a good story.
Yeah, and even Will was like the likable goofball at first, and then they turned on him. Paris and Maddy have kind of been their backup masterminds all season long, and now they're a complete mess. And now they're dumping on Paris in order to make sure that Kayla seems okay, and Maddy is a crying mess. And it's just like every single character they have tried to focus on has gone against the narrative that they have set for them. I think Derek has been the only one that's been consistent as like, okay, here's our boring white straight guy. He's going to continue, and that's in a showman's. And he did not disappoint. He did exactly what they expected.
Well, yeah, he's so boring. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong for them to really throw him under the bus with. So good for him. Consistency.
So is this the right decision this week for Dela to take Maddy out of the game? Like, what do we think about this? Because they have kind of a warped perception of who has a better shot in the final two. And they feel like that Paris is the most dangerous one to bring to the final two, but she's so much weaker in competitions that they'd rather take Maddy out right now. Do you feel like this is the right move for them, Melissa?
Oh, that is so hard. I mean, it really is a tough question, because I don't know, because it's hard to tell, because Maddy is coming so close, but I don't know if she would ever really win. And Paris could actually win the whole game. And so it's really hard to determine who to take out. But I feel like if I were them, I'd want to take out the person who has the best chance of winning. So I'd probably want to take out Paris. Because I could see people voting for her in the end, whereas I cannot see people voting for Maddy. So if one of them can end up in the finals with Maddy, that would be ideal. Even if Maddy wins an HOH or a veto right now during the season, I don't think that propels her to a win in the end when she's up against the jury. So I would personally probably aim towards taking out Paris this week.
I'll say it is the right move to take out Maddy, because it is all comps right now, and just based off what they know, what they've seen, they saw Maddy come close in the veto last week, the one where the Shaw with the slide puzzle, whatever it was. They saw Maddy come close with that, bringing pictures back, remembering things from the season, and then she obviously came very close in this last competition against Kayla, almost winning that HOH. So if it really is just comps right now, and who can remember the most and think the fastest and the quickest, and we see Will obviously got like 2 questions wrong in that, so Will isn't going to be the first person they're trying to get rid of. And Paris, she slips up sometimes, and then she beats herself on the head, and she's like, "Oh man!" Like, and maybe she was doing that in the beginning of the season to throw a little bit, but it does seem like she really just kind of caves under the pressure sometimes. And I'll say that I do think that of the 3, Maddy is the most likely to win one of these late comps. So I think it's the right call.
Yeah, I have to think so as well. I think that just the trio is so close in terms of how the jury might vote for them. I do think Maddy, if you're looking at it from a perspective of Will has Johnny in the jury and Paris has Ryan in the jury, whereas Maddy has no personal connection outside of the trio in the jury, then you may say that she has the least amount of chance to beat any of the 2 of them in the finals. That said, I think Maddy is the one that would do the best in the jury questioning, and I think that she is the best competitor of the 3. And if I'm Kayla or Derek right now, my only goal is ensuring as much as possible that I am sitting in the final 2, because the vote is going to be close regardless. So I do think they're making the right move here. I would not want to risk, or at least actually, that's actually maybe not quite as true. I think that for Kayla, it's the right move Derek isn't as vulnerable at Final Four as Kayla is. If I were Derek and I was like thinking about purely my own interests, I might consider keeping Maddy in the game, thinking she's an easier beat, just because you probably are going to win the HOH. You've got at least 2 shots, and that means if Maddy does win the Final Four veto for whatever reason, Kayla is the one to go home and not you, and that means that you're free to take Maddy to the end or whoever to the end. So it might be okay for Derek to deviate from this move if he can do it. But ultimately, I do think it's probably the correct move for Dela to be taking Maddy out here.
If they were worried about, taking people to the end that they thought they could beat, Marin would still be in the house. Ryan might still be in the house. It's just they're all smart people. Well, I say all loosely, but at least Derek and Kayla are intelligent enough to recognize that right now it's just all about the comps, and they had been saying for a while that Paris has been playing a strong game, and they recognize that. So Melissa's point is totally valid. That it seems like they should consider at least taking Paris out now, because Paris would be an end game threat. It just does seem, like I said, like they're just all focused on comps.
Yes. All right. So let's try and break down a little more specifically. We've been talking about it all night, but like, how do we think these jury votes are going to fall based on the information that we have? And we'll try and share all of the information that we have. So like looking at the various final 2 potential final 2s, assuming that Maddy leaves this week, we've got Derek and Kayla. So let's try and count the votes here. If we think that Derek can beat Kayla, or that Kayla can beat Derek, we based on my conversation with the 3 people evicted in the triple, I think they would all vote for Kayla over Derek. I think that Ryan would be more inclined to vote Derek over Kayla, but I think his vote is probably the most up in the air, because we heard from Johnny and Liv that they would try to manipulate Ryan into voting for Kayla over Derek. And then based on what the 3 in the house have been saying, they're leaning more toward Derek over Kayla. But again, that may change once they get into the jury. But how do you? So for me, it's kind of tentatively looking like a 3-3 vote with potentially Ryan in the middle. How do you see it, Matt?
Well, I did feel like Ryan might be in the middle there, but just after watching that small 2-minute jury clip of that they just put out today, Ryan really doesn't like Kayla, and it makes sense given Kayla's goodbye message to him. He really has no positive feeling towards her at all, and I'm really not thinking that there's anything Johnny can say to him that would make him say, you know what, I guess you're right, I'll vote for her. He just doesn't like her, plain and simple. Like she did terrible with managing his jury vote, and like he just has no relationship with her. There's no reason that he would vote for her. And just in terms of the trio voting between Derek and Kayla, I feel like it's just always easier to say that you would vote for the person who didn't put you in this position. So, Kayla put them on the block this week, so they feel a little angrier at Kayla. So they're saying, well, I guess we're voting for Derek, because it's just a little bit of bitterness. But we also haven't seen the end game play out. And a lot of it, I think, will have to do with if we get down to the final 3, suppose theoretically it's Kayla, Derek, and Will, and Kayla decides to cut Derek. I feel like that just locks it up for her. I don't think there's any scenario where she loses that.
Yeah, and I mean, in regards to Ryan, I think that it's possible, like, even though he's angry with her, that maybe he'll come around by the time the finale hits. And because he was saying as he was leaving that he wants them to manipulate, he wants people to, be like own their game and not be afraid of it, and et cetera, et cetera. And if Kayla can pull off a good speech and say, like, look, like, I had to do all this, like, I did X, Y, and Z to get here, blah, 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 then I think that Ryan could come around and respect her game and vote for her over Derek, even though he's really mad at her, or at least I would hope.
Yeah, the jury video that we've been talking about, that I think, Matt, you mentioned, that was Johnny filming the jurors. Ryan was talking a lot about how much he hated Kayla. Again, this is pure speculation. The vibe I got from Ryan was one of, I am still mad at Kayla. I hate her guts, and I'm gonna continue to play that up so that I look extra good when I don't use that as motivation for my vote. Because as a casual fan who watches the show only, I think that he is probably somebody that subscribes to the like, oh, Paul should have won, or oh, Paul should have won, or what's his Ross should have won. Like I feel like he's probably one of those guys, and that leads me to believe that he probably wants to look even better by saying, Kayla, I really hate you, and I really hate the goodbye message you left me, but gosh darn it, you played a great game, so I'm going to give you a vote. I could be completely wrong. I absolutely could be completely wrong. But that's just a speculative theory of mine.
Right. So picture this: they go into the finale night. It's Kayla and whoever, and the deciding vote is Ryan. Ryan votes for Kayla after Canada saved Ryan so that it would hurt Kayla's game. But then Ryan turns around and he's like, actually, I'm going to vote for Kayla to win. So suck it, Canada.
Yeah.
Just how Big Brother Canada can you get?
So I will say, going for between Derek and Kayla, I feel like Kayla actually has the best chance of beating Derek. I think her chances of winning in the final two are best against Derek, because when I look at Kayla against Paris or Will, I start to get a little more worried for her. And that's because we've been talking about how she's willing to cut Derek in the end. And the only way that that Kayla gets there, I have to imagine, is if she wins the final 3 HOH and cuts Derek. If she does that, Derek is not going to have a lot of time to rebound from that. And I think he's going to be very upset. Based on the conversations that he's been having with Kayla, he's been saying, I would never do that to you. If you did that to me, things would never be the same. It could be very, very dangerous. And I think there's a very real chance that she loses his vote in the end if she does that. So with that being said, if she cuts Derek, she loses his vote, then the other two members of the trio continue to stay loyal to the trio, which isn't a given, but we have to kind of assume the worst here. If they stick to it, then that's 3 votes right there. And then if she's sitting next to Paris, then you have to be even more worried about Ryan's vote, because Ryan loves Paris and he hates Kayla. And so that's a very tricky situation. I don't think she would prefer to take Paris, but she might not have a choice if Paris is sitting there in the final 3 with them. If she's there with Will, I think she has a slightly better chance. But you never know with Johnny liking Will so much. There's a chance that she may lose that vote as well. And I do think that Ryan still could easily vote Will over Kayla. I think he's much more likely to vote for Kayla if she's sitting next to Derek than if she's sitting next to any of the trio. So I'm very worried about that scenario. And as much as I'd love to see Kayla cut Derek in the end, I do think she has the best chance of winning if she's sitting against him. How do you feel about that, Melissa?
Yeah, I think that this isn't a situation, in my opinion, this isn't a situation where Derek is telling Kayla, if you cut me, I'm going to be pissed off, as a strategy. I think he really would be pissed off. I think Kayla telling Derek, yeah, same for me, if you cut me, I'll be pissed off, is more of a strategy. And I think that she just wants him to take her, but really would understand if he cut her. Whereas I don't see him seeing it the same way. So I think that if she cuts Derek, I mean, normally I totally advocate for cut your biggest competition. You've got to do it, even if it's a showmance. With the Cody and Derek of BB16, it was like, you got to cut him. What are you doing? But I don't think that's the case here. I think here, Kayla should not cut Derek, and if she gets to the end with him, because I really think he's not the type to be like, you got me, good game, I get it. I think he'd be really mad. So I think it's in her best interest to not cut Derek if it comes to it.
It's when we saw John and Netta, and John cut Netta. Netta's she was such a fan of the game. She knew how this worked, and she was planning to do the same thing. So it's like she knew that if John wanted to win, cutting her was a good move. So, and she respected it as a Big Brother fan, as a Big Brother player. Derek is not a Big Brother fan. This is he doesn't know how this works. He doesn't know that, like, well, he knows that this happened, but he doesn't, I think, fully grasp the idea that, yes, if I get to the end, I should cut her just like she should cut me. So it does, the potential for him to be bitter is way higher than it ever was for Neda to have been bitter. But I don't know. It's going to depend a lot on, if that does happen, what Kayla says to him in like those few seconds before he walks out of the house. Because if she can say to him, listen, I loved working with you, I loved playing with you, and I respect you so much as a competitor. You would have won if I let you get to the end with me. So there's no way that I could win if I bring you with me. I'm really, really sorry, but I have no other option. And I feel like if she says something like that and really like makes him feel good about like just that she respects him and that she's not doing this to be an awful person. She just wants to win, and she can't do that with him in the way. I feel like if she says that, then maybe she can get it.
I think what she needs to do is say, I'm so sorry. This has been my dream for so long, and I know that I can't win sitting next to you. You are too good. And like, don't worry though. We are gonna see each other as soon as we get out. Like, we're gonna have fun with this together. Like, just give a little bit of doubt in his head. Like, maybe I shouldn't be spiteful in this moment. And if he had more time to think about it, maybe he would have been. But just a little bit of doubt so that he still potentially votes for it. It's sort of like the Danielle still votes for Dan kind of thing, even though after everything she learned about him, like he was still able to convince her that like, no, don't believe everything. And if she had a little more time, she may have voted the other way, although not if Dan was still there talking to her.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's definitely, I'm not saying this is a sure thing that Derek votes against her, but we haven't seen Kayla be super great at jury management so far. So I'm just a little bit worried about how she handles the situation if she does end up cutting Derek. I think that actually the best situation for Kayla is if Derek wins the final 3 HOH and takes her. I think it says a little bit of what it says something about Derek's game and that he is definitely loyal to her. And then if she in the questioning is like, yeah, I might have cut Derek if that was what was best for me. Where Derek is saying, I never would have done that. No, I was so loyal. Then that's the kind of thing that might convince somebody like Ryan, like, oh man, Kayla was just playing the game so much harder.
I'm picturing like as Derek goes out after Kayla evicts her, like if Derek goes out the same way Erica did and he starts like yelling at her and she's like, I respect you so much. I'm so sorry. I respect you. Don't care. That's cute. Bye. Like, imagine. I
could totally see that being the result of it. And that is not something that would be good for Kayla at all.
That's how Kayla loses the game right there. But that's a funny image to picture.
Yes. All right. Well, let's talk about, because it is possible that we lose Derek or that we lose Kayla even in the final 5 or the final 4. If the wrong person wins the veto, because I do think that Derek is the odds-on favorite to win the HOH. But if he does, then if Paris or Will win the veto, then they will be evicting Kayla, I have to imagine. And certainly Will could also leave there, but we've already talked about Will not being in the finals. So let's talk about what happens if Kayla is not there.
I'm getting like a pit in my stomach from you, like
honestly,
talking about this.
Kayla would have to like break her foot Christmas style for her to lose that. And like, I don't mean to jinx her, and I don't mean to jinx anyone, but seriously, like what in the world could give anybody confidence that like Will or Paris could pull off a win against either of these two? Only one of them have to win, because even if Derek doesn't win the HOH, if they're both sitting on the block and Derek wins the veto and Derek pulls himself off, Derek's just going to evict whoever's sitting next to Kayla. It's like it's a 50-50 shot, which is more like not a 50-50 shot.
I do agree. And based on the past couple of Big Brother Canada seasons, I would say Paris and Will basically have no chance. I do think that there has been a slight reaction to Kevin's impossible streak last season. I think we are seeing the question competitions, they're a bit easier, and that makes it a lot more random. And that's why we saw it come so close the other night between Maddy and Kayla. If that is the case, and they are making the question competitions a little bit easier, year, even though for the most part, I do think these competitions are still very winnable. But if they go back to the previous style, I mean, we even saw Sabrina win a competition down the line in Big Brother Canada 2. So those kinds of things, that's what makes Big Brother great in the US at least, is that anybody can win at one of these competitions down the stretch. It's much less likely in Big Brother Canada, but I wouldn't say it's completely impossible. I think it's much more down to what kind of competitions are they going to play than it is are Will and Paris capable of winning. It's really just like, are they going to stick to the kinds of competitions they had last season, or are they going to change it up a little bit? And if they change it up a little bit, then I'm not willing to say I think that it's a sure thing.
And hey, don't forget that Trevor Boris tweet about the Big Brother Brazil competition where they went for like 40 something hours and he said, "Hold my beer." We haven't. I don't know. What if he was hinting at something there where maybe they won't go for 43 hours because we know Big Brother Canada production doesn't like to, stay up past 11. But I don't know. Maybe they have something planned where it's like just total endurance and how bad do you want it? And I mean, even still in that situation, I think Derek or Kayla take it over Will or Paris. But I don't know. Maybe they'll change it to something like that.
He said that, and then the next competition was endurance, and I'm assuming. Well, I assumed he was talking about that competition, and it was the candy one, and it was like, oh, okay, so nothing happened. Okay, cool. That lasted for what, like an hour? I don't even know.
These are the people that they're like, oh, give us the night off after the double eviction because there's like a holiday the next day. Like
throw them a party so we all get to go home early.
Exactly. So let's talk about okay. So how would Derek fare against Will or Paris in the end? We've talked about how Johnny might vote for Will over Derek. We've talked a lot about that. And if that is the case, I think Will would win. If Johnny eventually does choose Derek, I think that Derek would win. I think that really just all comes down to Johnny. But what about Paris? If he's sitting next to Paris in the end, then we are looking at potentially Will and Maddy voting for Paris. You got potentially Ryan voting for Paris because Ryan loves Paris. Can she get the fourth vote? Where would Paris get that fourth vote? I'm not sure I can see it. I think this is one of the more predictable outcomes. I think that Derek has a good shot against Paris.
That's Johnny. Johnny's the fourth vote.
Johnny would vote for Paris.
Even in his rankings with me, though, he put Derek over Paris. He said, Kayla, Will, okay, fine, I have to vote for Derek over Maddy and Paris because Maddy and Paris both suck. That's what Johnny said to me. So I think it's much less likely that Johnny votes for Paris over Derek than Will over Derek.
I think it depends going down the stretch. So I think if Paris gets taken to the final two, then he'd vote for Derek, by dragging his feet, he'd vote for him. But if Paris ends up winning out and ends up taking Derek, then I think Johnny might change his mind.
It's so tough because it seems like, when you look at it, the only way that I think Paris gets to a final two in any scenario is probably by winning her way there. But then again, if something weird happens with the veto next week, if Paris is HOH and then Dela's on the block and one of them wins the veto, then Will has to go home there unless they take the other one out. So I guess there is a little bit of room for Paris to sneak in. But in terms of Paris versus Derek, I know that Johnny said that, but I still feel like he's got some block in his brain where he's saying he doesn't want to vote for Derek if he can avoid it. And he has mentioned Johnny throughout the game a few times that he sees what Paris is doing. And I feel like he felt so I don't even know if he felt betrayed or he just felt like she made a stupid move, which she did by keeping Kayla in the game. So it's just kind of like a little bit of that. Well, you kept Kayla in the game, so now Kayla's going to win, or you kept Derek and Kayla together in the game, so now one of them is going to win. But I still feel like even though he said that Derek is probably a tier above Paris, I wouldn't count that out for him giving Paris his vote.
I will say I would be very surprised if Johnny voted for Paris over Derek. But we'll see. We'll see.
I think out of all the options, I guess that's the only place that you can find a fourth vote, because Kayla is obviously voting for Derek. Allie in the jury video that we saw today was very anti-Paris. She had nothing nice to say about her. She said she was feeling, and that relationship in the house wasn't the greatest. It was kind of held together by sticky tape for a week or two at the end there. there. Olivia and Paris had a little bit of a connection, but Olivia still, I don't know, because then Olivia was talking to Johnny, and Johnny was like, oh, and Olivia here wants Derek to win. And she's like, that's not true. So I don't know. Maybe Olivia gives her vote to Paris in that situation. That could be the swing vote.
I mean, I still don't. I think that Derek has it pretty much locked up against Paris.
Hey, you asked where she could get the vote. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I just I'm not sure it comes from Olivia. I don't know about that. But so let's talk about the final one. If for some reason it comes down to Will and Paris, I think Will takes it. I have to say. I think that Johnny campaigns for Will over Paris. I think that Liv, who is one of the few people that put Paris above the other two members of the trio, goes along with what both Johnny and Ali say about Paris. Ryan would probably push for Paris, but nobody's listening to Ryan. And even Kayla and Will, I feel like would have some amount, Kayla and Derek would have some amount of loyalty to Will. They do feel like he has been somewhat loyal to them, although they also think that Paris is the better player. So that might come into play.
I think, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I really think that I think Paris would take it over Will. I think people would recognize that Paris has actually been playing the game. Will hasn't. And I think that, if we're comparing final two speeches at all, Paris wins hands down.
Yeah, but remember, she's kind of practiced and she claims to make all kinds of moves that she didn't even come close to making. And I feel like that alone could ruin her chances.
Possibly. But I could see, I don't know. I feel like Will has done nothing, and I think Paris has at least done something. She didn't get nominated until the very latter half of the game, and I think that if she brings that up, that's going to be a huge thing. She's going to talk about her social game. We have a lot of people reciting speeches that they don't end up using in the final two, so we just have to hope that maybe she does not use that one and instead goes with, her social game and the fact that she stayed off the block for so long, and now look at her. So, and the fact that she didn't have to win a competition to do it. But yeah, no, I just have to hope that they give it to Paris in that situation, because Will hasn't been doing anything and Paris has actually been playing. And there were some times where you could see some genius out there where she would change people's minds and you'd be like, how did that even happen? So I really think that Paris should win over Will. And I think that they would go for that.
Yeah, in the Will versus Paris scenario, Dela is really the swing vote there, because you have Ali, Olivia, and Johnny, who, like we said, probably are leaning towards Will there, especially with Johnny's influence. And then you have Maddy and Ryan, who would be leaning towards Paris. Dela's the swing. I feel like Kayla has said a few times that Paris wins if she gets to the end, just kind of throwing that kind of comment out there. It's hard to say, though, if she means that as she would get the votes, including mine, or she played a well enough game that she deserves the win. But I don't know. I feel like if Kayla and Derek have been saying, this whole time that they want to bring Will to the end because they view him as the weaker competitor, maybe they aren't, maybe that's how they view him in the final two if he's up against somebody that's not them, and they give Paris the vote.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where Kayla and Derek, who have been saying all season long, if Paris gets to the end, she's going to win. If they get to the jury house and everyone's like, no, we hate Paris, then maybe maybe we had the wrong idea of Paris's game.
Well, they won't see the jury house, just to throw that out there. Right, they'll one of them will get evicted on Monday. I think they'll go to a separate location. I don't think the jury saw Ika last year until finale night when when Ika came out on the stage and they were like, "Oh, here's the fourth place person."
Wasn't Ika part of the round table?
I don't think so. I think she walked out on stage towards the end of the episode, before the vote. Right? Does that sound right?
I don't remember. I feel like I remember Ika,
and they were we cut to Netta's face.
No,
and she was
Ika was definitely on the round table.
Was she?
Yeah, because they were like, "Oh, you might convince us to not vote for Dimitri because you're being so annoying." Right?
Did that happen maybe after Ika walked on the stage and then they were talking?
Bill Hall is saying yes, Ika was there.
Where was the round table then? At the jury house?
Well, yeah. Well, they go somewhere. It's not at the jury house, but they bring them. Ika, I don't think stepped foot in the jury house, but she talked to them at the round table.
Okay, I don't remember. But either way, it's not like you're going to get both Derek and Kayla there. But I guess Derek and Kayla would still have time to talk before they actually do vote. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and yeah, Brock Mara. Didn't Jackie keep flipping her off? Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so that's sort of how we see the jury going. Obviously, not unanimous on our conclusions there, but we'll have to see how it goes down. Ultimately, the only one that really matters is probably Derek versus Kayla or Kayla versus Will. I think those are the far more likely outcomes, and then maybe Derek versus Will. I think those three are the most likely outcomes. But I do want to do one more thing before we get into the stock watch. I want to go over these awards. How do you guys feel about going
Oh
through the
yeah,
awards?
that'd be fun.
Do we have like
Do you
like
get
voting is
vote?
open, right?
I
I have
voted.
them up in front of me here.
You voted, Melissa?
I did.
They haven't like screwed you over so many times that you're just like keep it away.
I've never voted for those things before, and I felt like it'd be fun.
Well, there you go. So I want to get you the official RHAP opinions on the.
Well, I haven't seen
the
these
voting
yet, so I'm
awards.
excited to hear them fresh for the first
All
time.
right. Well, question number 1: the most epic battle, was it Will versus Ryan when Will was pissed off about Ryan voting against him after the Canada save, or was it Johnny versus Dela versus Ali that happened when the flip flopping was happening between Ali and Kayla? We're unanimous here, right?
Yeah, the Ali, Dayla, Johnny.
Oh yeah.
That was definitely way better. 'cause
argument
the Will
that-
one was stupid.
The argument that happened while Taran was off in Boston running out to buy a charger instead of staying back and watching this on feeds with us.
That was a good one.
This is a great, and I'm still upset that they didn't air the. I am in public and I am speaking from Johnny. All right, so that's our vote. Ali versus Dela versus Johnny. Question number 2: favored retching is the question, I guess, and it's just Olivia or Will who vomited better.
I voted for Olivia
Yeah, we're voting for
I'm
Olivia.
always going to vote for Olivia.
because I like how she grabbed a pizza right afterwards and just like she like just threw up and then just like grabs a slice of pizza and starts eating it.
Yes. Favorite soliloquy. Is it Ryan talks to Canada?
No. Nope.
Or is it Maddy in the snow? It's got to be Maddy in the snow,
Maddy
right?
in the
I mean,
snow,
that was
for
beautiful,
sure.
and it wasn't begging for a twist to be used on you.
Yes.
But don't they show these clips to them at the like their banquet or whatever? But then won't they see that Maddie's like such a fan of the show? I guess if she's gone by that point, it won't matter. But
Yeah, that's true.
won't that like give away that she's like
I think
such a
she's
huge
already like told
fan?
them about that because they showed that picture in the veto competition that they played last week. So she probably already has talked to them about like, oh, this is when I was sitting outside and talking about how happy that I am to be here. So
Well, there are 11 questions. They might not show all of them. There might be ones that like, oh, if Maddy is still here, then we might not show this one. But if she's
okay.
gone, then maybe we will.
Yeah, because I was like,
or
that
just show
might
her
give away
saying
some
like, I'm really
stuff.
happy to be here. They could.
Okay, next is finest lip lock. Is it Kayla and Veronica or Kayla and Derek?
Not Kayla and Derek.
Kayla and Veronica, only because that was the best of the two options. I just felt like I didn't want to vote for either.
I want to vote for Paris and Jesse, the one that wasn't seen.
Yeah.
ever. I want that to see the
Yeah,
light
they
of day.
finally show it.
Yeah, give that award to them. Put them in the right-in spot.
They should have done for best lip lock, someone and the fish.
Yeah. Johnny and the vegan, the vegetarian.
Yeah,
kiss.
Johnny and the fish.
I'll take that.
Question 5: the finest hoax. Is it Nicky 9 Doors, which was when Will got pranked by Ali, or is it Will fails the secret mission? I don't like this one.
I did the fish one just because I remember smiling during that one, and the other one I was like very annoyed that they were showing it.
I don't remember the other one with Allie.
Ali just kept like running and knocking on the bedroom door and then running
I mean,
back.
that was funny to watch, but yeah, I'll give it to
I feel like it was funny, but I feel like I was so annoyed with the fact that I just felt like the whole episode was filler that I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm over this. Whereas with the fish one, like it did go on a little long, but I was smiling during it, which I feel like is a plus.
Yeah, just the fact that went on during the like we should have seen Johnny campaigning stuff. Like, I'm protesting this one. I'm not voting for either.
I'm waiting for the best strategic move question between Allie and Allie.
Oh yeah.
Is that coming up?
Question 6: oddest of duos. Is it
Oddest?
Ali and Olivia or Will and Veronica?
Ali and Olivia, duh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're great.
vote
Allie and
for
Olivia.
Allie and Olivia every time they they come up.
Yeah, Allie and Olivia are the better duo. I do think Will and Veronica are a more odd duo, but I'm still voting for Allie and Olivia.
Yeah, the ding dongs.
Question 7: finest moment of madness. Is it Paris gets stir crazy or Johnny in the catacombs when he had all the jackets on him and he was being the hunchback?
I did Paris get stir crazy because she just like looks insane during that, and it was pretty funny.
I agree, because Paris was genuinely crazy. Johnny was just having fun. Like,
yeah, Johnny was being silly and funny and with other people involved, and Paris was by herself.
Yeah, but Paris can like turn herself into like that could happen at any given moment with the amount of times that she's sitting in a room by herself talking to a camera. So I don't know. I feel like I want to give Johnny a little bit of credit for his theatrics he brought.
Yeah, well, it is another
really
weird thing where
funny.
it's like, if you're voting for who you like better, then I feel like Johnny probably takes this. But I do feel like
That's what I'm gonna
Paris
do,
fits
if I
the
vote.
criteria a little better.
Yeah, it fits the theme of the award better, the category better than Johnny's does. But Johnny was really funny. He brought a lot to the feeds for sure.
All right. Question 8: favorite house meeting. Is it Veronica's house meeting or Johnny? This isn't even a question. Johnny's house meeting.
Oh yeah, Johnny's house meeting.
I think you're gonna
just
say
remember
Veronica's.
No, Veronica's was just being like, was just pathetic. It was just like sad to watch. Like it was very fun, like to have her call the house meeting, but it was just like, oh, it like fizzled out. Nothing really happened.
30-minute monologue, and Johnny's was like a 3-hour fight fest.
Mad. It was great.
I mean, I'll give Veronica a close second there because it was funny to see after she was in the house for like 3 days and she was like, I have to call a house meeting and talk about the dishes that aren't being cleaned.
That was, yeah, it was pretty good because she called it so early and it was like, wait, what? Why are we calling it?
Well, then again, are we talking about the other Veronica house meeting here? Is that the one that's up for nomination? Like the one where she was on the block and going home? Like that's probably the one that's up. But I'm still thinking about the earlier one too, where she was like, I have to talk about things. Like
house meetings never go well.
Question 9: favored jester. Is it Paris imitates Olivia or Veronica with makeup?
I didn't like either, so I voted for Veronica with makeup.
Okay.
Yeah, this is another protest vote. I don't like either one of this. Question 10: finest moment of revelry. Is it the hot tub party or the kitchen party? I honestly can't even tell the difference.
I did hot tub party just because there were more people there, and it was like it seemed a lot crazier, whereas the other party was like nothing.
The kitchen party was the filler when it shouldn't have been filler.
Yeah,
were these both
So I'll
like
go with
not on
hot tub.
feeds. I'm guessing, right? Like
Neither of them were on feeds. Yeah.
Neither of them were
I
on
don't
feeds.
even
It's
remember
like
that.
frustrating because it's like, oh, what was your favorite one to watch? It's like, well, we didn't watch
We
either of
didn't
them,
watch them at all.
so I don't know. All I
Yeah.
see is this little clip you prepared for me.
All right, last one. Most impressive retreat. Is it Erica's eviction or Allie's eviction?
Oh, that's tough.
I voted for Allie's because I feel like Allie gave away some good information in regards to the game, like saying that those two talk crap about you the whole time, whereas Erica was just like F you, which I mean is interesting to see in the moment, but it doesn't really add anything, any impact. Like there's no lasting effect afterwards, whereas Allie, like people talked about it, what she said afterwards. So I voted for Allie.
I love Erica, so Erica's getting my vote.
Yeah, I'd love to give it to Erica, but I do feel like Allie's was this is again like I'd give it to Erica, but I do think that Allie's fits the criteria a little more. So that's it. That's all the votes. So I think we learned something very important, which is let's never talk about anything that Big Brother Canada production wants to put out, because that was really boring.
And never vote again, because what's the point with our 12%?
Yeah,
I know our votes don't matter.
All right, let's do the
Or
stopwatch.
if we get all these right now, it's like, oh, okay, so our votes matter
so
for
now
things
it
that
matters.
don't matter.
RHAP rigged the Canada vote. Why they have too much power? All right, they're dead to us again. Yeah. All right.
The award show, the most important part of Big Brother Canada.
Okay, so Matt has instructions from Brent about what he's going to do in the Stockwatch. Do you have the ups and downs too?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, Matt's just gonna have to give his own ups and downs, and they're going to represent Brent, because that's what happens when you don't leave up and down instructions.
Matt is acting as Brent's proxy for this Stockwatch.
We generally, him and I are usually on the same page, so I'm sure it'll be similar.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you could try to, sabotage him and just be like,
True.
I think.
Actually, he told me to really just buy Maddy.
Buy ton of Maddy
So
stock.
weird. I don't know why he said that.
Yeah, find a way to get it all off Derek and Kayla.
Yeah.
That's weird. He just texted me that. I don't know.
All right, so I'm going to bring up the chart made by the wonderful Alexandra W on Twitter, and then we'll get into the stock watch. Here it is. The chart. So first, we're going to go with Derek. We were all down on Derek's game last week. It was looking like potentially Kayla could leave the game, and he was basically in a must-win situation in the triple eviction, but both things turned out to go in his favor. Kayla ended up staying in the house. He won the clutch HOH, and then even further than that, Kayla won the next one. I think this one's pretty obvious. Derek's stock has skyrocketed.
Up for sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Straight through the roof.
Yes, and Melissa and I both own 1 share of Derek. Brent owns 0. So that's how that's stacking up so far.
When do I tell you that Brent's gonna buy Derek? Like now?
Yeah.
This would be the opportunity.
Okay, well, Brent is going to buy Derek. And what about trades? Like, do we also do that now if he's going to trade to Derek?
If you trade to Derek, then yeah, bring it up now.
All right, well, Brent is going to be buying a Derek stock, and he's also trading his Paris, one of his many Paris stocks over to Derek.
Dastardly move.
I will be buying a Derek stock as well. Just
all right. So okay. So Brent now owning 2 shares of Derek. Melissa owning 2 shares of Derek. Interesting stuff.
Yeah,
all right.
And nobody probably cares, but I'm still going to say it anyway because I've been playing in the Patreon group as well, along with everybody in there. So shout out to Nikki, who's been keeping track of that. But I'm also going to do the same thing as Brent because I already have a Derek stock. So I'm going to buy another one for myself and trade one from Paris over to Derek. So the exact same move. I'm doing.
There you go. By the way, interesting to look at. Just to recap, I lost 4 shares. You can see on the bottom of my screen there. I had 1 in Johnny and 3 in Liv. I lost 4 in the triple eviction.
Oh wow! Yeah, you only have 3 left.
Yes, I have 3 remaining at the moment. Brent lost 3 shares of stock. He only has 4 at the moment. And Melissa, you lost 2. You and Brent both only lost from Liv. And Melissa, you had going into this week 1 share in every single one of the final 5.
I have a very diversified portfolio.
You do.
Good, got it. Just keep building off of it.
You're not close to retirement age, though. You need to be riskier here.
I feel like we're close to retirement now that the season's almost over.
That's true. So
I like this part because I can't see you now, so I'm just staring at a chart instead of your face.
That's what happens.
I have a picture.
It's what happens when you're a robot. You can just become a chart.
Also, the chat's going wild about you, Matt.
Yeah.
They all love your chin dimple.
I have a chin dimple.
Apparently.
Clearly.
They're saying you're the new hottie of RHAP.
Next, so Kayla.
Oh, you don't want to talk about it?
So next up, we've got Kayla, who we were also all down on just because of, again, she had 1 foot out the door last week, and she came incredibly close to being evicted. But again, the events of the triple and then the HOH following, her stock has skyrocketed, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely up.
Yep.
All right.
If it could go up any higher, I don't know, but it could not go up any higher.
I'm going to be trading my Maddy stock onto Kayla.
All right, there you go.
Are you sure you want to do that? That seems like a risky move.
You're right. I'm very risk averse.
I will be trading my Paris stock and putting it onto Kayla, and then I will also be buying into Kayla. So I'm going to end this week with 3 shares of Kayla. So let's move on to Maddy, who we were all up on last week, but again, the unlikely scenario happened. So everyone that was up is basically gone down, and most of the people that were down have gone up. So Maddy is, I think, very clearly on her way out the door this week. And even if she wasn't, this is not a great spot for her. Her stock has gone down.
Yep, down for sure.
Yeah, and we talked about her, going forward. Even if she did stay, it's still Derek and Kayla in the house. So anybody that's not Derek and Kayla, in my mind, are going down.
Yes. Okay, so let's then move on to Paris. Brent and I were down on Paris last week. Melissa, you were up on her. I'm going to say she continued to move down for me. I think this was a very bad outcome for the triple eviction, and I think her chances of winning are pretty slim at this point. But what do you think about it, Melissa?
Down again. Yeah, I'm going with you guys. Another down.
Yep. I'm also going to say down, and I feel like if Brent was here, he would say down too, based off of her game and based also off of how she's been acting as a person lately, and how he probably couldn't give her, couldn't rate her up at all, even if he wanted to, or if he tried.
Yes.
Yep.
And then finally, we've got Will, who we were all down on. I actually think Will is the one person, for me, I think he's gone slightly up because he's being taken to the final 3, potentially to the final 2, with a potential upset win, which I think was far better than his odds pre-triple eviction. So I'm going to go up on Will. How do you feel about it, Matt?
I think I would also say up, but like you could easily convince me to go down with this one. It's like this one. This is obviously the hardest one. But like we talked about, there are scenarios where he could pull out the win. So I would say up.
Yeah, I honestly thought that like last week even that Will would be probably one of the first to go from the threesome, just because I felt like he was strong and people viewed him as a potential threat, and they also viewed him as a potential winner, whereas they viewed the girls as totally useless. So I thought that Will would be probably the first to go from the 3, and now I mean I think he's going to be the last to go from the 3. So yeah, I think he's up at this point.
All right, so that concludes the stock watch very quick when there's only 5 people. Yeah, there's a reason I waited longer to get into it this time. And it's going to end with I'm going to have 1 share of Derek. Brent is going to have 2. Melissa is going to have 2. I am going all in on Kayla with 3 shares. Brent is still at 0 for Kayla, and Melissa is going to end it with 2 shares for Kayla. We've only got one more week of the stock watch, so these are very close to our final scores here. And then Brent has traded from Paris, so Brent is going to be down to 2 shares of Paris. Who did you trade from, Melissa?
Maddy.
From Maddy. So you're going to end with 1 share of Paris and 1 share of Will, and I'm going to have 0 for the rest of the players. So interesting stuff for the stock watch game heading into the final week. So does Brent have
he still has 2 on Paris, 1 on Maddy.
2 on Paris, 1 on Maddy, 2 on Derek.
And then 2 on Derek. Oh, okay.
That's rough to still have a Maddy share.
I know. I was like, ooh, boy.
I'm surprised he took it from Paris and not Maddy.
Well, I think he said that he had so much Paris to give her,
That is the benefit. Like nobody's going to be, even if he gives up 1 of Paris, he's still got a 1 stock lead.
Yeah.
So
and if something like flipped this week and Maddy stayed, so makes sense.
So there you go. That's our stock watch. I'll bring myself back up on the screen here.
Hey, welcome back.
You missed our stock watch.
What happened? Did Brent and Melissa go in on Derek and let me take the lead in Kayla? Because that's what I was hoping for.
I just woke up.
Brent bought a lot of Maddy stock while you were gone.
Yes. I talking about diversifying your portfolio. If I'm going all in on either Derek or Kayla winning, now I'm in a situation where either I win the stock watch or I win the draft, and I feel okay about that.
I love when that kind of thing happens, and you can just be happy either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, if Kayla ends up winning, if Kayla wins the season, you're going to take this win away from me by winning Kayla in the stock watch, and I'm going to be so mad.
All right.
You'll be like, yeah, but I did win the stock watch.
Exactly.
Yep.
So technically, I'm undefeated.
Yep.
That's how it works. See it now.
That's how it works. You have to completely devastate me. You have to bring me down to Maddy's level if you want any sort of satisfaction.
Did you have Marissa for Celebrity?
It's not a real win.
I did.
Oh, of course you did.
It's not a real win.
I had Melissa on the celebrity Big Brother celebrity draft. All right, let's get into some questions. Let's see. We already talked about jury votes, so I'm going to skip over that question. From Team Silkies, who benefited more from Canada's twists, John and Netta or Dela. Obviously, John and Netta had the Canada's HOH, which helped them break up the first 5, and Dela had the Canada save, which obviously helped essentially reverse a mistake that she made and take out one of her biggest threats in the game. So who do we think benefited more from the twist? I'll start with you, Melissa.
I think I would say John and Netta, but only because I feel like the game was going to go in a completely different direction had the twist not happened. But I mean, it did help Kayla, but I think that Kayla could have possibly figured a way around it had it not happened. And I don't think that like destroys Kayla's game by any means, but I feel like I could see BB Can 2 going in a completely different direction had the twist not happened, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Matt?
I think I'll say John and Netta too, but I get why, obviously get why the question was asked. It's tough with Dela because, I was saying this earlier that if Erica stays in the house there, it's tough because Erica and Johnny could have probably brought back in Allie and Olivia, but Allie and Olivia were so like flippy floppy dingy dongy in the middle there where it was like, if either of them had won power, who won the first HOH after Kayla made that move with the Canada thing? This is on the spot. I don't remember. But it's easy to see. I don't know. It's easy to see how that could have like the next week Dela could have been out. So I don't really know. But I think I'll go with John and Netta.
You're saying who won the HOH after the Canada save?
Yeah.
It was Derek. So
Okay.
And then he put up Johnny again, or put up Johnny.
So if Eric is still in the house there, we're probably looking at like Johnny and Erica nominations. I don't even know. But,
well, theoretically, Erica might have been able to beat Derek in that HOH competition, given that she had won the 2 previous that she had played in.
Right. Well, does she want to win that one if things are going smoothly? Like, does she try to win? I don't know. She did say that she was. She was trying to
win it. She was going after Dela at that point.
And she had been saying at that point, what does she have left to lose besides keep trying and winning? So, it's a tough question.
Yeah, I will personally say I think that Kayla and Derek benefited more. We've talked about the Big Brother Canada 2 twist a lot. It essentially just helped them win a single competition. The plan was already in place to target the first 5. It was a situation that like helped half of the house take a shot, the shot that they wanted to at the other half of the house that was likely going to happen regardless of whether or not Canada agreed with that. Whereas in the situation that Kayla was in, if she had taken out Ryan there and left Erica in the house, then they had a much tougher road ahead of them. Like we said, it changed the entire course of the game. Whereas like in Big Brother Canada 2, it was more like it just facilitated the direction the game was already going in. Where I really feel like the twist in Big Brother Canada 6 impacted it more, and it saved Kayla in particular from a big mistake that she was about to make. And John and Netta were not in a position where they were going to. John was certainly saved by the fact that the other side didn't win the competition, but I do think that ultimately it's probably pretty close, but I think ultimately Dela benefits more here from the twist. So let's talk about from Night Baron Zero on Twitter. What impact do you think the Big Brother Canada 6 game will have on a hypothetical 7th season? Do you think the producers are happy with this end game, or will they try to course correct? My answer to this is that I don't think they do much course correcting, to be honest. I think that the ratings are okay, then they're okay. And I don't think they really have a good idea of how to course correct, even if they felt like they needed to. So I don't think it'll have much impact. I thought there was going to be tons of impact from Big Brother Canada 5, and I feel like there hasn't really been. So that's where I stand on that. You guys agree?
Yeah, I don't really see them changing all that much. I mean, none of the seasons have really changed that much. I mean, from Big Brother Canada or Big Brother US. I mean, every year we're like, they have to see that this is a problem and they'll do something about it next time, and then they don't. So I don't think they'll ever try and change anything unless the ratings are totally down. Then maybe.
Yeah, if anything, I mean, like there's certain things from seasons that affect the players in the next season. So watching Kevin do what he did, there's so much studying going on in this house, and they were studying from the second or third week they were in the house. They were already like breaking apart things to look at calendars that they were putting out. Like in Erica's HOH room, she had like the jacket that she had like a calendar set up on. So it's like different things that people see from the players in previous seasons will affect the next season. So I don't know, maybe next season we see like every single person go into every single room talking to the camera for 3 hours, and we just want to punch ourselves in the face after watching like 2 hours of feeds. But other than that, I don't know. I agree that I feel like if they were going to change anything, they would have done it by now after what Kevin did.
All right, next question from JT on Twitter, who asks, both Derek and Will fit into the straight white male archetype. Derek, however, played a better game so far. Why is Johnny more inclined to vote for Will as opposed to Derek? I think for me, the answer to that question is like Johnny essentially has answered that while he was in the house. He talked to Will about, look, if you are in the final two, I'm going to help you out because we've been allies for a long time, and I want to see you win. So if you're asking me, it's because Johnny has a sense of loyalty to Will, which is why I think he might be willing to drop that because he's already, Will already essentially voted against his wishes, and so I don't think Johnny owes him as much loyalty anymore. So I think that's why Johnny was inclined to vote for Will over Derek, but I think that's also the reason why he might end up voting for Derek over Will. But what do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we kind of touched on this when we talked about it before, but I mean, I think he's going to vote for him out of, like you said, a loyalty and also that whole privilege thing. I mean, I hope that he recognizes good gameplay and doesn't do that. I mean, that's the other thing is like, okay, Will has a kid. I'm sure he's going to bring that up. And I really hope that doesn't influence the jurors this year like it did with Marissa last year, or not last year, with Celebrity.
Yeah, and Johnny and Derek didn't play a whole lot of this game like together. They probably didn't play almost any of this game together. They had allies that were, they had allies in common, and of course, it's not even possible to argue that Derek didn't play a strong game. He's, his social game has been good. He's been winning comp switch. There does seem to be a little bit more attention on like comp wins and stuff with this group, or maybe it's just like this happens every season, and we just don't. I don't know. But I guess Johnny spent a lot of time with Will, and he did a lot of strategizing with Will, which goes back to like the Jesse week when they got rid of Jesse, and it was a lot of it was Johnny's idea, but I think he bounced ideas off of Will so much, and he just, again, like you guys said, he has a sense of loyalty to him, and I feel like if there's anybody who sees more game from Will than other people would it would be Johnny, because Johnny played the game with Will.
Yes. One more question from Josh Spence on Twitter, who asks, does this week remind you of the ugliness of the Survivor Palau finale with Tom and Katie berating Ian into quitting for daring to play the game? Yes, I have in fact made this comparison. It very much reminds me of this, where they're just like harping on Maddy constantly and getting her to feel so bad about herself for playing the game. It takes me right back to the Palau season. I'm not happy about it.
I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to talk about Survivor Palau on a podcast ever. Palau was like one of my favorite seasons, just because I've watched it so many times when I was a kid. But yeah, I see it. That jaw dropping moment when you're just like, wait, Ian's really gonna do this, and he's really gonna give it up just for the friendship with Katie. Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Yeah. And I will say about the competition thing, like whether or not competitions are important. I asked Johnny this question, like how much will competitions play into your votes? And he said that he didn't feel like competitions were that important. And Olivia backed him up on that. It's weird because that's a fight I've been fighting for a while, especially in the US. Like competitions don't mean that much. However, now that people are agreeing with me in Canada, I'm like, actually, I don't think it's the same in Canada. I think that in Big Brother Canada, now that we've seen what Kevin did, and now that we're seeing what's happening this season and what's happened in basically every season of Big Brother Canada, is that the Big Brother Canada competitions are more winnable than the Big Brother US competitions. And with all of the twists, competitions are the only way to keep yourself safe. I think competitions may be one of the most important factors to determine who's good at the game in Big Brother Canada. And I wouldn't even come close to saying that for Big Brother US. Yeah, that? What do
I
you
mean, I think the difference is that for Big Brother US, there are so many random competitions where there's no skill involved. It's just like hitting a golf ball across the thing and it has to like land at this specific spot and no one's really golfed before in their lives. Like, you know what I mean? It's not nearly as important because people will win that sort of competition, those like randomized competitions. And then in the end, they'll say, I won 3 competitions, and as part of their resume. But that competition didn't matter at all. Like it could have been won by anybody. It didn't take any particular skill on your part to win that. So for those sort of competitions, I don't think they mean anything. But in Big Brother Canada, where they're, I mean, all skill based pretty much. I don't think we've seen any randomized ones this season. I feel like they are way more important. I don't think that it should come down to, well, you know, he was really, really good at strategy and he got himself there to the end. But he only won 2 competitions, whereas this other guy, he didn't do anything, but he won 7 competitions. But the whole time, everyone else was dictating his HOHs, or they were all vetoes he didn't need to win, or whatever. I feel like I would still give it to the person who strategized the most, even though they didn't have as many numerical, you know, competitions than the other person. But yeah, so I think they're important, but I don't think they should be the end all be all when it comes down to picking a winner.
Yeah, didn't Big Brother 8, didn't Zach win a lot of competitions? I feel like I remember him with a few HOHs, maybe a veto or 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he won
But-
a few.
And he probably does he win that? I don't know why I'm thinking about that
Well,
right now.
I think Dick won more.
I feel like he won like 2 HOHs towards like the end of the season though.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I don't know why that came into my head, but it's just like it's so easy for us to be sitting out here and saying like comps matter, comps don't matter, because it really doesn't matter what we think, I guess. Because when the house guests are in there and they're looking at you know the resume that you know everybody's been hyping up the resume so much, even more just in recent seasons. It's hard to like put social game on a resume because it's like, well, how do you measure that? But it's so easy to just look at somebody's game and be like, all right, well, Kayla won X amount of competitions, Derek won X amount of competitions. So even if it might not mean anything to us overall, whether it's BBUS or BB Canada, it does obviously mean something to a lot of people who play, especially people who aren't big fans. And you know, like a recruit like Derek is freaking out because Kayla just won another competition to add to her resume, and he doesn't realize that like even though Kayla might win an equal amount of competitions as him, he still can present himself in the end, and he'll have a case for him winning over her.
Right, but I mean, like, I think what I'm saying is that regardless of perception, I think that if we're looking at what actually makes you a better Big Brother Canada player,
sure.
I think that winning competitions it might be the most important factor. I think that if you go into any given season and you say this person is this good at winning competitions, just like say they're knowledgeable enough to throw competitions at the start of the season and then win them in the back half, I think that archetype for a player is infinitely more likely to win than almost any other type of player, regardless of almost anything else on Big Brother Canada. So just a little theory of mine. Yeah,
Which is why you're saying that you feel better about Kevin's win lately.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still not like I need like 5 more seasons of the exact same competitions before I'm ready to say that like Kevin is a great winner. Because I still feel like surely they're not going to leave that loophole in the game.
You'd think not, but
I don't know. All right.
Also, just as an FYI, it looks like Kayla's talking to the cameras and saying that she would take Derek.
Well, she's practicing her speech against Derek right now. She's saying like, I have stuff I can say against you, Derek. I don't know if that means she's going to take him, but she is practicing the speech against him. So she's definitely thinking about potentially being there against him.
Well, I think you brought it up on I don't know if it was the update that we did the other day, but I think you said something about how people have been talking to Kayla saying you can't beat Derek in the end, and she just kind of has this thought in her head like, wait, why can't I beat Derek in the end? And I do feel like I've seen a little bit from her where she's considered taking him more than she had in the beginning of the week, where she was like, well, I do have to cut Derek, like, but now she's starting to consider like maybe I can beat him, so maybe I don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all we've got for you this week on the LFC Roundtable podcast. Let me know if you guys have a hashtag, either of you or you guys in the chat. Give us some hashtag possibilities. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up? No. All right. Okay, so make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will be live to update you again on the happenings on the live feeds. And then Thursday night after the eviction, I will be live. I think Melissa will be joining me on Thursday. And we'll talk about the eviction episode of Big Brother Canada 6, and of course, check out all the continuing coverage. The Taran show is late this week, but I will be recording tomorrow, as long as everything goes right, with our good friend Peely. So hopefully tomorrow the Taran show with Peely will be coming out, and that will be a lot of fun.
Might have some double Peely, because I think Peely's doing the rankings with me for Big Brother this week too.
There you go.
She'll be busy today and tomorrow.
Let's. I'm not seeing any Toxic Trio.
Let's go with that.
Tier above. Toxic Trio is a decent one.
That represents this week pretty well.
Yeah. Make sure you tune into my Twitch channel. We're having some fun on there. I'm playing God of War. I might try and do another one of our. We watched along with the triple eviction live on Twitch. We might do that for the Wednesday episode, since we don't do a podcast after the episode. Maybe hang out with me and watch the show. You can find me on Twitch, Taran Armstrong. I'm gonna go live on Twitch right after this podcast. So if you want to hang out with me, ask me some more questions, you can find me there.
I think you're obsessed.
I had to stream 7 times in seven unique days in order to get the sub button, but I got it. It's there. I'm an affiliate now.
Oh my God.
There you go.
So now what? They can what do they get to do now?
You can be a subscriber to the Twitch channel. You can get the custom emotes and have fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't understand Twitch yet. Maybe I'll figure it out.
We'll all figure it out someday. Everything's moving to Twitch. So you can just Google search Taran Armstrong Twitch. I think that's all we've got. Matt, you mentioned the power rankings. Where can people find those?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to robinswebsite.com, you can see go down to the blog section. It's pretty much just only me right now, because Logan, who recaps Survivor weekly, has been on vacation, so it's pretty much just a bunch of power rankings at the bottom of the website. But for the Survivor ones this week, Brent, who is not here right now, was the guest on that, and then, like I said, Peely is jumping in for a return appearance for the Big Brother Canada 6 rankings, and that's all I got.
All right. So, man, looking forward to wrapping this season up. It's we're just over a week away. So, looking forward to that, and we'll have some fun. We'll have some fun with the rest of the season. Hopefully, we have a good outcome. We'll see what happens. I saw #gaslight. I like that one. I feel like that's even better than Toxic Trio. What do you think?
Same thing. Like, they both represent the same kind of
the
thing.
Gaslight Trio.
I feel like Gaslight is a little more relevant to what we discussed.
Works for me.
All right. So you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Matt is at Matt Liguori, and Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. And for Matt and Melissa, I'm Taran Armstrong. #Gaslight. We'll see you next time.